Namaste, this is Aditya and welcome to Shankar Martech channel. In my previous videos, I have explained you how to create the custom components in AEM and how to create the Sling models, and I have also explained how to use the query builder and AEM resource resolver. In this video, we are going to see how to add CSS to the custom components which we have created. This video is part of AEM tutorials for beginners playlist. If you haven't watched it already, I will leave the link in the description box. Please watch it out if you are interested. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Let's get started with the presentation. So we are trying to achieve this layout. This layout is called as a cards layout. Okay, so this is one card, this is another card, and this is another card. So there are three cards here. And what we are displaying here is actually the article details. What are the list of the articles? So this component is called as a article list component. Okay, so we are listing what all articles are available. Available where? Okay, so for that what we have done is we have created a site structure and we are trying to gather all the articles under this page. Okay, and we have made this authorable, which means to say that so if this is the component, if I go to the dialog box, I'll be able to accept what is the root path. And once the root path is given, what I'll do is I'll list all the pages under that path. Okay, so and these are the articles which I am trying to show here. And from where this title and description is coming, so that is coming from the page properties. So if I select this rice plantation and if I go to that page properties, so this is the title which I am seeing and this is the description which I am seeing. Okay, so we need to achieve that. So we need to accept what is the root path. Okay, and we need to query for the list of the articles in it, and we have to go into this page properties and we have to get the title and description. So to do all that, we have already written a model. So all this I have covered in my previous videos. Okay, so if you haven't watched those and if you are interested to watch those, then I'll leave the links in the description box. You can go ahead and check them. But we have queried upon all these pages and we have went into the page properties, got title and description, and all that details we have sent into the UI also, and we have printed it like this. Okay, so for that also I have written the code. Already we have created a video for this. So how to access these modal variables in the Slightly code, for this also I have created the videos. So that link also I'll leave it out in the description box. Okay, so we have done till here. Okay, so we just printed what is the title and what is the description like this. But what we need to actually do is we need to achieve this layout which is being displayed here. Okay, so to achieve this layout we need to write the CSS. So now what we are going to see is how exactly we can write the CSS to achieve this layout. Okay, so how to write the CSS in AEM, that is what we are going to see now. Okay, so the first thing which we need to understand is in AEM, it is a best standard to follow BEM notation. BEM is nothing but block element modifier notation. So if you see this documentation, right, this is the Adobe documentation and they have provided what is BEM notation and what exactly it means. Okay, so this is the block modifier. Okay, so block element modifier, that is the notation which you are following, right? In this, M is modifier. Okay, BEM, M is modifier. So what is a modifier? Modifier is nothing but a variation. Okay, so for example, if we have a button, okay, for example like this, as we have shown in this, right, we have a button. So now currently this is in green color. So if I have the same button in another variation which is like in red color, then that is called as a variation. So there is a color change, there is a style change. So there are two buttons, the exact width and height, everything is same, but one is in green color and another is in red color. So then this green and red is called as a variation, and in this language it is called as a modifier. Okay, so here we will say one modifier is green and another modifier is red. Okay, so that is meant by modifier. So the syntax is like we need to give the modifiers after this double hyphen. Okay, so that is the standard which we follow generally. Okay, and what is the syntax for this? So what is this block? Okay, block is nothing but a component. Like for example, if we are writing a article list component, Then for the entire component we need to define one class, and that class is called as a block. Okay, so the entire component wrapped in one class is called as a block, and if that block has variations, then that is called as block modifier. Okay, and inside that component we have individual elements, like for example in this block, like if this entire thing is one component, article list component, then this entire thing wrapped into one class is called as block. Okay, but in this block we have components like this card component, this card component. So these are all individual elements in that particular block, right? So those elements are called as block elements. Okay, so the syntax to identify the block elements is underscore underscore. Okay, so to identify the variations we give hyphen hyphen, and to identify the elements we give underscore underscore. That is the general syntax which we follow. Okay, so having said that, let's see how exactly we need to do the coding for this. Okay, till here we have achieved in our previous videos. Okay, so the entire thing I need to wrap it in one class. Okay, so I'll put a div tag. So this is entire component code which I have. Okay, so this entire component code I'll put it in a class, and I'll give it a name saying article list, CMP article list. So this is the name which I have given here. Okay, so this is my block. So this is how I wrap this entire code into one div, and I gave a name for it. Then this class is called as a block class. Okay, so now what happens, this h1 is an individual element in that particular class, right? So it is part of this block. So what I do is I just copy paste the same class name, and what is the syntax for the element here? Underscore underscore, right? So then I'll put it as underscore underscore, and I'll name it as heading. So this is how I need to, this is the naming convention which we generally follow while coding AEM. Okay, so next what I do is, the next thing which I need to do is I will convert this into div. Okay, so this is the block which wraps my entire this thing, right? Entire cards. So let me remove this root path printing, which is not required here. Okay, so now if you see this entire this thing, right? Entire block. So all these cards, individual cards, are wrapped in one particular block. Okay, in one particular box. So that is this box. So if you are new to this HTML and CSS, I have created a separate playlist on the CSS concept and how to think in CSS. Okay, while you are coding anything in CSS, how exactly you need to think. Okay, so I have created a separate playlist for that. It will be very useful if you want to focus on front end stuff of AEM. So I would highly recommend that you go and view all those videos before coming into this. But I'll give you an overview here so that you need not shuffle between the videos if you already have some understanding. Okay, so what we generally do is, before coding anything in CSS, we always think in boxes. Okay, so to align anything, first we need to think in boxes. So what am I seeing here? There are three boxes here, right? So this is one box, and this is another box, and this is another box, three boxes. But these three boxes are also wrapped in one box. So that box is not there, but I can imagine it to be there like this, right? So these three are wrapped in one box. And if you see here, this in this topmost box, these three elements are aligned horizontally, right? These are sitting one besides another. So these are sitting horizontally. But if you see this individual block, then the elements in this block are aligned vertically, like this, one below another. So in this block, the elements are one besides another, and if you take the individual block, the individual box, then the elements are arranged one below another. Okay, so this is how I think in boxes while coding in CSS Flexbox. Okay, so this alignment of aligning the elements one besides another or one below another, how we do it is using Flexbox. Okay, so that is one of the CSS display methods. So for that I need to think in boxes, right? So I am thinking this is my topmost box wherein these three boxes are available. So this is what is my box. So I have to define that box now. How do I define? So I have created a div for that box, and now I will give a class also for it. So as I told already, I will copy paste the same class, and here the element I will change. Okay, so this is how I am naming it. So because all these cards are sitting in this top container, right? So I just named it as cards container. You can name anything basically, but you will have to follow this naming convention. It is the best practice. Okay, so then what happens? So I have given this naming convention. So after that I come in here. So this is where actually I am trying to list or loop through and print this title and description. So all these are individual boxes I am looping through and printing this. So what I'll do is I need to create a box, this individual box also, right? Because my title and description are wrapped under this box. So what I'll do is I'll just define a box here. Okay, I need to close the quotes here. Okay, so then I will just define a box here, which means that I define a div. So I just wrap this title and description under this div. Okay, so then what I do is I just copy paste this class here again, and I will say this as cards. Okay, so this is my cards container, but this is the cards, which is this box. Okay, in this box I have title description. So I have printed the title and description. So let me just remove this br. So I have printed this title and description. So next what I need to do is I can wrap this title and description also in one boxes like this. I can assume that this is one box, this is another box, and this is another box, right? So I can just put these also in div. Okay, so I can just say div, and then I can put this in this one, in this box, and similarly I'll define another div and I will just put this into this box. Okay, so why we are placing all these in boxes? If you see my CSS video, you will understand more actually. Okay, so similarly we have one more thing, which is button. So I'll put a box for that too, and here what I need to do is I need to give an anchor tag, and for now let me give href equal to hash, and then I will just give explore. Okay, and yeah, so this much I have done. So now what I need to do is again I need to give classes for these also. So it is best practices to always give classes to the elements, whether you have any class definition for it or not, like whether there is any CSS being applied or not. You just give the classes, class names, because later on it will be easy for us to just add the class, add the styles to that particular element if required in later on. Okay, so always in CSS you always give the classes like styles, you give it based on the class names only. We directly not give it on the div or anchor. We directly not apply the classes on elements unless you are writing the global classes. So as long as you are in a particular component, you better define the class names and apply the styles only to a particular class, instead of defining it to the entire element itself. Else it will mess up the things. So if you directly define the style on this anchor component, it will get applied in your component. But once you add it to the page, your page not only has your own component, right? There will be other components also. So if you directly add the style to a particular style tag, or to a particular HTML tag, then that style gets applied onto all the components, which is not good. Okay, so always define the classes for each element. So I will name this as card title. Okay, so this is the class name I am giving, and similarly I will give class names for these two. Okay, and here I will say this as description, say DESC. So I'll say here card button container. So I'll say btn container, because this is just a container, right? So then I will also define the class here, and I will say this is the actual button. So I'll say card button. Okay, so now I am done with the HTML. So I have structured my HTML and I have followed all the naming conventions and named all these styles properly. All these elements, class names I have given properly. So now I need to come to defining the styles. So generally the approach I follow is I always hardcode my style in the HTML first, just for testing purposes. Then I move it into the client libs. So there is a process of creating the client libs in AEM, which I'll show it to you also in this video. But first, while testing whether our styles are being applied or not, the approach which I follow is I generally put it as part of HTML because of convenience purpose. It will be easy for me to test it. That is why I just put it like this. So just put a style tag and then I can just give the styles here. So the first style which I give is for this container, right? So this is the class I copy paste, and what is the style I need to give is I need to align the elements within this box. This is the box I am talking about now, right? This blue color thing which is covering all the three boxes. So this is the box I am talking about. So this box, in this box all the elements are aligned one besides another, right? To define that I will say display flex. So once I say display flex, all the elements will be arranged horizontally one besides another. Okay, so that's the first thing which I am doing. Okay, so this container part is done now. So now I need to come to this single card, right? So let me copy the class name for that single card. Okay, and then I will just put this here, and then I'll say this has to be display flex too, and then now once we put the display flex, the alignment will become one besides another. It's by default horizontal alignment. To force it to align vertically, like in this box the elements are aligned one below another, right? To achieve this layout, what I need to do is I need to say flex direction and give it as column. So once I say this, all these elements will get aligned vertically one below another like this. Okay, so I have aligned this one alignment I have done and this alignment I have done. So what I need to do next is I just need to leave some space between these two. The space is inside this box, right? So what I do is I just give some padding, and then I say padding should be maybe 10 pixels. So this will leave padding all around this box. Okay, inside padding it will just leave 10 pixels everywhere. Okay, so then next what I need to do is I need to define the width of this card. Okay, so that I define it as 351. Okay, because here it is 351, right? The width is 351. So I'll just define it as 350. Okay, 350 pixels. Okay, so generally if this design is done by the designer, then there will be exact width and height, so you can follow that. But here I just given a rough idea as to how it looks like. So it is 351, so I just made it 350, but you need to follow the exact dimensions while you are doing in actual work. Okay, so this much I have done. Okay, so then what I need to do is I need to look after this button. Okay, so then this is the button code, right? So I will say this button. So this button has, let us suppose, the padding. Okay, and the padding on the top and bottom I will leave it as 15 pixels. Okay, so that the box height will be 30 pixels, and this width I will leave it as 40. So the padding to the left and right I am leaving it as 40, so that the total length becomes 80. Okay, so this is the padding I have given. So I need to give the background color now. So I'll say background color, and then I'll just select this button, and if I just go here I'll have the color here. So I will give this color, and then I'll give the foreground color also, which is the text color, and that is FFF, which is white. Okay, so this much I have done. Okay, and I also have to align the explore button towards the center. So I'll just say text align. and then I'll say center. Okay, so this much I have done. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll just compile this code and see how it works. Okay, so I'm compiling this code right now, and once it is deployed, let's see how it works. Then if there are any further modification, we can inspect and do it. Let's wait for the compilation to complete. Okay, so now the compilation is complete. So what I'll do is I'll just go into this UI and I'll just refresh this page. Okay, this AEM page wherein I have just added the component, right? So if I just refresh this page, now I have got this look and feel. Okay, so if I just view this as published, so then this is what is the look and feel which I got. Okay, so if I just inspect right in this, so now if you see, this is the container, okay, and this is the main container wherein I defined it as flex, and the items are aligned one besides another, and this is cards wherein the items are aligned one below another, and the explore button also I have got it. Okay, but the only thing is now I need to do few changes here. So if I just compare it with my Figma, right, this one is my Figma. Here some difference is there, and the first difference is that this border is not present here. So first I need to add that border. So here I can just see how to add that. Okay, so here is my card. So here I can just say border, and then I can say 1 pixel solid black. Okay, so immediately I got this. So I got this border. So here I can just add these styles and test it, and if it works, then I will just copy paste it here into the same class, so that once I compile again, these changes will get reflected. So the idea is to just quickly do the changes here and test whether our changes are working or not. So here also I can give, so if you see here in my Figma, these are nicely center aligned, right? So here it is all merged into one another. So to do that, I can say justify content, and I can just say space between or space around. So yeah, space around or even space evenly I can say. So this will leave the space evenly between these two and the outside ones also. So now this is nicely aligned. So what I'll do is I'll just copy and paste this into the corresponding container here. So let me go here, and this is my container. So I'll just paste it here. Okay, so this change is done now. So the next thing which I need to do is I need to center align this button. So that is one change which I need to do. So let me come here, and I will select this one, and I'll say text align and then center. Yeah, so this is making to appear button center. So what I'll do is I'll create a class. So see, this class is not defined in my code until now. So I'll just define this class here, and I will just copy paste this code text align center into here. Okay, so this should make all the buttons center. So since the class is not defined, I have directly applied to the element. So only this element the change is made. Okay, so then apart from that, I need to change this flower garden, the title I need to make bit bigger. So I will change here from div tag, I will change this title to h2. I'll change this title to h2 so that the corresponding that bigger text will come here. Okay, so then what I need to do is I need to leave some space. So if we see here, this button is going on top of that one, right? So I need to leave certain space. So what I need to do is I can give it on this button also. So if I go to this button container, I can just give margin here. So I can just give margin on the top and bottom, maybe for 10 pixels. Okay, so this will leave that space for me. Okay, maybe I can give 20 pixels like this, and then I will give 0 pixels for left and right. Okay, yeah, so this is also looking good. So I can just copy this one and paste it. Okay, so till now for this button container I haven't defined anything, any class. So let me copy this one and let me create a new class for this. Yeah, button container, I've already created it. So now I just need to add the margin here. Okay, so I added the margin, so I think this is good. So then I think I need to leave some space here also, that we'll see once the new compilation is done, because generally the h2 will leave certain space between h2 and the other elements. Okay, so now let's compile until here and see how it works. Okay, so now the compilation is done. So let me go back here and let me just refresh this code. Okay, so it looks much better now. So here I have got the good text, big text, and this is the description and this is the button. Okay, but the only thing here is this text is not center aligned. Okay, so I need to put it center aligned. So similarly I can just inspect this and I can just see how to make this center aligned. Okay, so I just need to give text align center, which will make it center aligned. So let me check that. Yeah, so this is how you will just test all your classes and do it. Okay, so once the styles are ready, then what we need to do, that we'll see now. Okay, so what to do after all our styles are there. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to create something called as clientlibs. Okay, so how to create the clientlibs, let's see. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to go into our article list component and we will have to create the clientlibs. And to create the clientlibs, I need to create a node and I'll say clientlibs. Okay, so generally if we think of a pure HTML development, right? So then what we do is we just generally create an assets folder, and in that assets we will create all the CSS and Java files, right? So but here in AEM we create something called as a clientlibs folder. Okay, and the type of that should be CQ clientlibs folder. Okay, so and the name you can give clientlibs, and the type should be CQ clientlibs folder, and click on OK and save all. Okay, so then what we do is we just create two folders here and we name it, one is CSS and another folder which we create and we call it JS. So all the CSS files will go into the CSS folder and JS will go into JS folder. So let me create the CSS file now. So I'll just create a file and I'll say article list dot CSS. Okay, so I can just name it like this, and then what I can do is I can go into this CSS into my code and I can copy paste this entire HTML. Okay, I will just copy this entire HTML and paste it here and save it. Okay, so this is what I can do. Okay, so I can just copy all the CSS here. Okay, so then what I need to do is I need to create one more text file here. Okay, I'll say css dot text. Okay, so what is the purpose of this? So the purpose of this is to include all the CSS. Okay, so here I created one file, right, CSS file. Like this I can have multiple CSS files in this CSS folder. So all those CSS files I need to include as part of this component while loading this component. So for that what I do is I create one css dot text file and I'll say base equal to CSS, which means that this is my base CSS folder. So then I can just give file names one by one. Then all the file names which I give, it will include automatically. Okay, so to include this article list file, what I need to do is I just need to give article list. So I'll just copy paste this name. So article list.css. I can just copy paste this name here and that's it. So now this file will get included. If I have another file, another CSS file, I'll just click on enter and give that file name also if I have to include that CSS file also. So in this css.text file we need to list all the files which I wanted to include, and this hash base equal to CSS means that all these files are available as part of CSS folder. Okay, then what we need to do is similarly like this I need to create a js.txt also. So let me create the js.txt also. So since I do not have any JS right now, I will not include any JS files. So till here I am done now. So now what we need to do is we need to add this clientlibs folder into our code base. So what I'll do is I'll just create a package. Okay, I'll say clientlibs. Okay, so this is the way I do it. Generally people use the editors and plugins so that all this development will be quick, but I generally don't use the plugins. I do it in a raw way. So I got used to do like this. I just export this clientlibs and then I just copy paste manually into my code base. But otherwise all this development can be done in our code base, or else we can do it in CRXD, and through plugin it will automatically reflect in our code base. So there are many ways to do it, but I just prefer doing it this way. Okay, so then I just go into this article list and clientlibs. So what I do is I just copy paste these two and I just put it into my folder, which is this folder. Article list is my component, right? So into this folder I just paste it. Okay, so I have got my clientlib folder here. So then I have got this article list.css. So now what I can do is I can just remove all these styles because all these styles have moved into my clientlibs folder. Okay, so till here it is done. So now what we need to do is we need to, apart from this primary type, right, we need to add one more thing which I forgot is the categories. Okay, so we need also to define what is the category for this clientlibs. Okay, let's see how to do that. So I'll just give an enter here and I'll give the categories here. Okay, and the category I'll give it as okay, so this is the category I have defined. So now what I need to do is I need to import these CSS and JS files into my HTML. It is like just like any pure coding, right? Any pure HTML coding, we first need to include all the CSS and JS files in the HTML, right? Or else how does the HTML know which JS and CSS has to be included? So that inclusion has to be done. And in AEM we include it using Sightly language, and let's see how to do that now. Okay, so this is the syntax which we follow to actually include any clientlibs. Okay, so I'll say data slide use clientlibs and I give the clientlibs location, and then here is where I'll say clientlibs.all. All means both CSS and JS. Okay, so if I just want to include only CSS, then I can say clientlibs.css, or if I want to include only JS, I can say clientlib.js. So just as of now I am just including all here, and here what I need to do is I need to give what is my category name. Here we have already created this category, right? So that category name I'll give it here. So this is the way we include these clientlibs into the HTML using Sightly code. So if we compile till here, then my code should work as usual. Let's see. Okay, so the compilation is done now. So let me go and refresh the page and see how it works. Yeah, so the page is working as usual, which means that all my clientlibs I moved into that thing, right, into the clientlibs folder. So all that is still working. So if I just refresh this and see, refresh this component and see my clientlibs is there still. So if I just go into this HTML, here I don't have any styles. Okay, so now if I just inspect this one, okay, so if I just refresh this page and if I just inspect it, and if I just go into the sources, I need to see this one. Okay, so I should be able to see this apps weekend component article list. This is my component, right? If I just open this, I have both clientlibs.js and clientlibs.css, right? So this is where all my CSS will be there. So which is an indication that my client libs are loading properly. So if there is any mistake in creating the client libs, then this doesn't get created. Okay, so which means that there is some issue with the configuration of the client libs. So that's it for today, and in my next videos I will show you how to create a component variation. Okay, till now we have seen how to create the block and element, and in my next video I am going to show you how to create a variation or modifier and how to author that variation on the page. That's what we are going to see in our next video. Jai Hind.